So hi guys, welcome to issue 6 of Warhammer Stormbringer. This episode is titled 10 Hobgrot Slittaz. Have to get that right because it's tempting to say splitters, but it's Slittaz, presumably because they're going to slit you. And also in this episode I'm going to be doing some cheating, so I apologise in advance. So hi guys, this is issue 6 of the Warhammer Stormbringer, and as you can see it's titled 10. So this week we get 10 figures, and this is the sprue. 2, 3, well I call that 3 because that's 1 and that's 2 there. So we'll deal with those in a little bit. You also obviously get 10 bases. I put them onto a piece of tissue paper because I'm getting fed up. I can't always... These aren't so bad, but because of the shape of the bases, if they go onto the surface flat down, I can't pick them up. Whereas on a piece of paper, I can just lift the paper up. So that's my advice to you if you have struggled like me. So very quick look at the magazine. Front cover there. I've got the index. We've got this section is all about the Krill boys, and it's section number 2, and then it jumps to section number 7. You know, I just flip through these. This is how to build them, and I will go back to those. So you can see we've got instructions on 10 different ones. These ones are going back to the push fit connection ones, and I will confess I don't like the push fit ones. They don't seem to fit as well as proper. Games Workshop Citadel miniatures are well known for a really good fit, and when you glue them together they fit well. You'll see from this one you can hardly see the join. As always, the focus is out. You know, you really can't see the join very well, whereas these push fit ones, you know, there's gaps, or sometimes they're clever with the gaps. They'll put like a cloak joins the skin, so there's going to be a gap there. But I don't love them as much, but we'll see how these ones go. Then we've got how to paint. We're only going to need 2 paints this week. One we've already got. Sorry, both we've already got, which is the Oic flesh, which is obviously going to be for the flesh, and the lead belcher, which is going to be for the armor. That's the only 2 we're going to need. So again, tells you how to paint them, tells you what you're going to need, what models you're going to need. It goes through painting the base coat, and then it goes through base coating the silver. Then there's a section on how to play. So this is all about shooting. So this is missile weapons, and so the shooting always comes just after the movement, before the charging phase. Blah 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 blah, and then you have the playthrough. No, it's all playthrough, isn't it? Yeah, it's all playthrough. Basics, and then the playthrough. So again, they give you a scenario, you can play through that scenario, no problems. And then you have the conditions for a Stormcast victory and the conditions for a Krill Boys victory. Now, I flicked through this last time. This is basically promoting the actual stores. So you aren't stuck with these magazines with no help. You can always go to a Warhammer store or a Games Workshop store. You can go online to the community, and it says Stormbringer is just the beginning, hundreds of models and more games await. Check out the entire range at Games Workshop. So as well as being a magazine, giving you models for quite cheap, cheaper than the shop prices, it is a big promotion for them. And then on the back page we see what's coming next week, which is 2 pots of paint. So I suspect, because we've got 2 more paints, it means that we're going to be going back and we're going to be painting more on all of these models. And in case you hadn't noticed from the last few issues, the more you paint, the less you actually have to do. You do gold or green for the main color, and you do that all over, and then you start adding details in, and the details are a little bit quicker. Also, I already know the answer to this, I'll be honest with you, but it's always interesting to see how whites go. White is a very difficult color to paint with. I will explain more next week, but it'd be nice to see what that white is like. And then in issue 8 we have a Lord Imperatant, and then we have 2 models. So we have the Lord Imperatant and his Griffhound, and we get a brush. We get a medium base brush, which I'm looking forward to, because painting with that starter brush is very hard work. No, that's not it. There we go. So far I've got my collections little box. I am saving up for a case. So that's the starter brush, which is quite nice for layering, but it's not so much fun for basing, which is why I'm going to be cheating in a little bit. So without further ado, let us build the models, then we can paint them green, and then we can paint them silver. So I'm going to speed this up, I think, because you've seen me building before. All we do is we go through all of these, and each part is numbered, and you know what I'm like. I find it very hard to find the first few pieces, but as we progress they get easier and easier. So you see here, or this one's only a 3-part model, but we find where 27 is. I still can't find it. Is it there? There's 27. Then we add on piece 26 and piece 28, which is there. And so yeah guys, so I'm going to do this speeded up. Now these went together really well, with the exception of one, possibly none. There's no seam lines, they're just such a good fit. And the hardest one was the first one, but they kind of went together all the same. Back of the body, front of the body, then a head. And I think all of those heads are interchangeable. But I've noticed left on the sprue, like you've got some spare parts. And I might try and put them together, see if I can get some extra models out of them. Probably not. But like you've got a banner there. But I noticed on one of the other ones, I don't know if I mentioned it, I did lose a part. A part got knocked off while I was painting, and I actually picked up a spare part and managed to get that to fit. So it's very handy that they're having spare parts. These little hero models, you don't tend to get them. Right, anyway, that does nothing for the build. We have got spare parts. As you know, I keep my sprues when they've got anything on them. I don't cut them off the sprues till I need them. So yeah, so the next step, we need to base coat them green. Now this is where the cheating's going to come in. I am going to use an airbrush. I recently bought a new airbrush and I'm dying to use it, and I'm dying to use it on Citadel paints. So let me just explain what I've done first of all. First of all, we need some kind of spray booth. What I've got here is just simply a box that's just been, I've had the tabs cut off, and then I've just cut it at an angle on the side, and all that's going to do, we're going to spray into the booth. Actually, I want to cut a little bit of that off as well, just to put my arm in, but that doesn't matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold the model in there, and it's just going to save everything getting dirty. You can get fans and things, but this isn't a toxic smelly paint, so it's not really going to make too much difference. Now if you do not have an airbrush, do not panic, because all you need to do is just paint them with a brush exactly as we have been before. And I'm not going to be able to do all of this with an airbrush. I've just put the cat down on the floor and she just landed on her head, which is not funny, but she seems fine. Good girl. Yep, she's fine. So yeah, if you don't have an airbrush, don't panic. We're just gonna you know, saves time. And the second part of this, we're going to have to be using a brush anyway. So why use an airbrush? There's pros and cons, like everything with having an airbrush. It's quicker, and I'm going to do all of these practically in real time. Well, I'll see how the video length goes, but I'm going to try and do these in real time so you see how much more quicker it is. The cons are clean up afterwards. When we paint with a brush, all we do is we switch our paintbrush in water and it's clean. Con number 2, it's messy. You're going to be missing with the brush. So the first rule I try and do is I'll put a glove on, because when I'm holding them I'm going to spray and I'm going to get loads on my fingers. And like I say, the clean up as well. But one of the main advantages is the speed, and the second advantage is you can get a much thinner coats. Now I'm going to say use the thinner of your choice. You can use water. This is my own mix of thinners, which has got a little bit of alcohol in it, a little bit of drying retarder to stop it from drying quite so quickly, because when you shoot paint through an airbrush, the pressure dries the paint so much quicker. And it's also got a little bit of flow improver, just helps it stick and flows better. But you could put just water in, so for the purpose of the video I'm just going to pretend this is water. So all we're going to do is I'm going to get my big airbrush, the one with the bigger nozzle. We're not doing any special work, and all I'm going to do I have an old, well, I say I have an old paintbrush. I'm actually using this. This is a little bendy brush that I got from somewhere. But normally I use one of those cheap kiddies craft brushes because they're just so easy to clean. They've got nylon bristles and they just clean so easily. I always put water into my airbrush first because then that way I don't get paint clogging up in the nozzle. If it doesn't mix properly, then what's actually going to happen is we will get water coming through rather than paint, and if water comes through, it just won't paint the model so well. So we put as much paint as we think we'll need in there, and I'm going to go for roughly just over a 1 to 2 just over a 1 to 1 method mix ratio, probably a bit more water. Put more water in than paint and you should be fine. If you put more water in, then you just won't get the coverage so much. If you put more paint in, it's going to look awful. So we'll give that a quick spray, just see what the coverage. Try and spray onto something white, guys. Bit of kitchen roll, bit of toilet paper. There you go, that's coming through green. So, and I would say that's fine. Now, airbrushing is a technique that you get better with as you paint. So that's actually too thin. Too thin. Not a problem. But I am going to get a bigger brush, and then I can put more paint in. Sorry guys, just going to reach over and there we go. I'll use an old brush that I've used many times. So I'm going to need more thinner in there as well. I think I might have put too much paint in. So this is where it becomes a bit messy. Just make sure it's coming through the airbrush okay. That's fine. Okay, so airbrush all put away. These have all dried nicely now. As you can see, they're really nice. But I will stress you don't need an airbrush. I've just cheated. So what I'm going to do now, the next stage is to do the lead belcher, and you need to do all the silver bits in silver really. And if you do struggle with any of them, they have got this page here of what they should look like when you finish painting them. So as always, I'll do this bit speeded up, because watching me paint for 20 minutes, half an hour has got to be quite boring. Right, so that's them all done. So they've come out really nice just for one coat. Really, really nice. Really happy with that. One thing I did like about these is that all of that armour is really raised detail, really raised. So you can actually just slap it on quite thick, not quite thick, quite quickly, because you haven't got to worry about getting silver paint on the skin. Now it's on quite rough. There may be bits that I've painted that should actually be a different colour. That could all be touched up later on. But I'm calling this issue done, which means that we all got to do now is file the pages obviously, and next week is, I haven't seen the magazine yet, but we've got 2 paints. So I can only guess that we're going to be going through all of these models again, applying a new colour, all ready in time for a new hero figure. So I hope you liked this. Does doing the airbrush give you a bit of pause for thought? Tell me in the comments below, guys. Do you think, based on what I've done so far, or what I've done today, is the airbrush better, or perhaps brush painting? One of the issues we've obviously got is we've got this starter brush that's very hard to paint. Let me show you this brush. This is, I believe it's rubbed off now. I believe this is a large base brush. It's very, very worn now, but that's so much easier to use. It's absolutely amazing. But as we say, in a couple of issues time we will be getting a medium base brush, which is going to make life easier, you know. And if you go out and you buy a bigger brush, I mean, this is taking it to extreme, but this is a big flat brush, so painting large areas is a lot easier. I wouldn't use this brush myself, but it's just a brush that I've picked up. But yeah, larger brushes obviously make the job a little bit easier. I suppose you could use this. This is you can't get much detail with that, but for doing base work, just absolutely fine, absolutely fine. Right guys, so like I say, I hope you've enjoyed the issue, and I'll catch you in the next issue, where we will be introducing Corex White and Catachan Flesh. I hope I pronounced those properly. Take care guys.